Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Profit Minds podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen 𝐒𝐻ℎ, creator of the Profit Minds Growth System, a unique blend of profit growth, productivity acceleration, and building robust business process for scale. In every episode, I interview entrepreneurs and small business owners from around the world with a unique story to tell. You can find the show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple and Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and more. Well, hi, everyone. Today, my guest is Alfredo Borodowski, a PhD and MSW, an expert in positive psychology. And today, we're going to talk about the biggest challenges facing business owners that can be overcome with positive psychology. Welcome, Alfredo.
Hi, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here. Yes, you said the biggest challenges today, and there are a few which have emerged out of AI. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, and what we are noticing is that as we acquire technology faster and faster, we have what is called techno-stress. Techno-stress is when the pace of change and the feeling that technology is replacing you creates depression, uncertainty, and anxiety. And we are seeing that rising tremendously in the workplace. Then the key is to acquire technology while having a very good human plan behind it.
Yeah. So tell me your story. How did you get here? And then I really want to dive into that, putting together a human plan around, because one of the things that we talk about as we teach people to use AI and leverage it within their business is that what we're trying to do here is to take people into becoming AI-powered humans and not remove that humanity, right? So tell us your story, Alfredo.
Well, like very good stories, I never planned to become a positive psychologist.
Of course not.
Which is the science of flourishing, of optimism, motivation, hope. And because I was on top of the world, and as such, I didn't think about the positive. I was all positivity. And I didn't mention to you that for 30 years, I was a rabbi. And I was a rabbi of one of the most prestigious congregations in North America, where I had as congregant CEOs of major corporations such as MetLife and Prime Media and Times, and I had half of Wall Street, and I had the top senior partners at the best firms in Manhattan, until one day a congregant, a retired detective, gave me one of those friends and family replica of his badge. And he said, with this, you will never have any problem in your life until next day, when I crossed a stop sign and I was stopped by a policeman, and I showed the badge, and I began basically patrolling the highways of New York, thinking that I was also police. What happened is that I was manic, undiagnosed manic, totally manic. And I went to a psychiatrist and I asked for an antidepressant because I faked depression to have even a bigger mania. And between a mania and an antidepressant and the badge, I began patrolling the highways of New York, telling people how to drive, until I did it to a lady who made a phone call, and a minute later I had 3 patrols behind me and I was arrested.
Goodness.
Yes. Then I was arrested and I was accused with impersonating a police officer, a big felony. I never touched anybody, and nothing violent, but because I was a rabbi of a very prestigious congregation, high profile, the press made a circus out of me.
Oh boy.
And they called me the Road Rage Rabbi.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it went viral from front pages of newspapers on Ireland and Japan. And I had people coming out of the woods when they saw me on TV, accusing me. Then I had court cases all over the place.
Oh, goodness.
My lawyer said, we can't do anything at this point because the police want to make an exemplar out of you, made a big case out of you. And for 8 months, Steve, I went depressed on a couch, unable to move, darkness and obscurity, until one morning I felt an energy moving me up from the couch to my study on the first floor. And there I found on my desk a file, which I had no idea who put it there, because I don't recall myself put it there. And I opened the file and I saw the results of a test on positive psychology I had taken a few years before. And I saw my top results: creativity, love of learning, curiosity, perseverance, and bravery. And the switch turned within me, and I went back to school the months after that with depression and court cases, and I did fantastic social work school to become a therapist. I finished it with the highest grades, and I got the highest award as the most inspiring student. And I learned that the power of positive psychology and what it had done for me had saved me. And I said, I need to get into this and go around the world teaching people their top strengths.
Wow. Yeah, so that's amazing that personal touch for you, that positive, those personal strengths. It turned you from some sort of rogue wannabe cop, I guess, to a therapist and a psychologist.
Yes, it turned me from having lost my sense of self and purpose, okay, and seeing obscurity and nowhere to go, to an active, hopeful, full of purpose person.
So translate that into how you work with leaders now in that sense. So where is it that leaders lack that positivity, and what's the transformation that happens?
Then positive psychology is the science of flourishing, and it was established in 1998. And since experiments at the best psychological labs of the world have taken place, and conferences and papers, is a tremendously well-developed science, given that it's so young. And one of the things we discovered is that if you know your top 5 strengths, there are 24 strengths in positive psychology. If you know your top 5, you have a capacity to flourish 9 times more just by knowing them. And by applying them 18 times more. But we also learned that in America, 7 out of 10 people are unaware of the top 5 strengths. Then what we have is an epidemic of strengths blindness. And likely 7 out of 10 people you work with are working 9 to 18 times below their capabilities. Then the first thing I do with leaders, teams, schools, is to give them the top 5 strengths of each person. And that changes the equation from the start without having to go into deep, complex processes, just by knowing them. Then the first thing I do, people ask me, what do you do? I am an optometrist of teams and corporations. Okay, that's the way I talk.
Help them see themselves better.
Absolutely. By getting to conscience what they already have, because the strength, they have them already, but because they don't know them, they cannot fully apply them. Okay, once you know them, you can have a program, strategy to apply your strengths fully.
Yeah, and it flies in the face of many of the things that you're taught as a manager, at least I know I was to help people improve where they're weak.
That's right? the worst thing that could happen. We need to move from a culture of fixing to a culture of nourishing. That's basically, I mentioned this a million times, from fixing to nourishing. You have a leak at your basement, right, on a pipe, okay, and it's flooding, and you bring a plumber to fix it. Is going to bring the pipe to the situation it was before the leak.
Yeah.
There is no improvement. There is reestablishing the situation to what it was before. Then fixing actually is just getting things back to where they were. Nourishing is the capacity to bring them up to excellence. And more we are on a culture of crisis and fixing, less we progress. But we are, I tell managers, we know from science that one negative emotion, if you have one negative emotion, jealousy, anger, disappointment, you need 3 positive emotions to equate.
Yeah.
Because the negative is much more powerful and potent than the positive. Then you begin an assessment or a review with a negative, it will take you much more to bring that person to the positive than beginning with the positive. At least 3 positive things, and then go into whatever needs to be improved. It's a must that I teach managers.
Yeah. And we all know, I mean, every piece of data says that a happy employee, a fulfilled employee is more productive, is more engaged in their work. They bring new ideas. All of those things follow from this. Is just,
Yes.
it's wonderful to hear, somebody with a deep knowledge of this positivity.
Yeah, we know them, and it makes sense. But we were brought in a culture where pressure brings results. Like managers tell me, for a diamond, you need pressure. Okay, and I tell them, well, your people are made maybe out of the most delicate crystal. Who told you that they are made out of coal to be pressurized and become a diamond? Maybe they're made out of the most beautiful crystal, and what they need is polishing and shining. Okay, that analogy is wrong. Okay, then they look well, and then they realize, because we the system tell us that if we do not control, we are not doing our job. Okay, that control is necessary for success. And study after study showing that the opposite is true. But it's not easy to relinquish control, because then you begin feeling, why am I a superior to so-and-so? Well, you are a superior to nourish them to become the best they can be. And that's going to protect them from the anxiety, depression, and uncertainty of the new technology. To feel safe, to feel strong, to feel protected. Although we know the rules of the games, many people are going to go.
Yeah.
That's okay. But what we are seeing is what's happening to with those who remain. For 2 to 3 months, those who are not laid off with the last wave of technology, they have a 3 months going up on motivation and results, and then they begin with a process of 2 things: what is called survival remorse.
Yes.
They feel guilty, and then they go into, am I going to be next?
Right.
Okay, and then what we see is going up because I was privileged with surviving, and then immediately after 2 or 3 months they have a nosedive into uncertain, lack of motivation, etc. And all that, with the right tools and positive psychology, is preventable.
Yeah, I have a great story from my past that illustrates this really well. I was helping to run, I was part of the staff of the factory for Intel in Santa Clara in 2008 when the corporate office decided that it needed to be shut down. 800 people were going to be let go. That very day when we announced that, we also committed as a senior staff that we would help every employee find a successful new beginning. That was our commitment to them. And you know what happened? Our turnover, our annual turnover, traditionally was in the high teens. Because in that part of Silicon Valley, there's high turnover in technology. Our turnover dropped to under 5% for the 15 months that we remained in operation. We had things we had to get done because we were supporting, and in fact, we took everybody through the StrengthsFinder if they wanted.
Right. But what I see is that because companies are doing things faster and faster because the technology becomes faster and faster, there is less time for planning for the human and reflection. Things are done fast and defensively. And the human is going to become a luxury, the added value. Okay, more technology advances and get a parcel of reality, more the human is going to be scarce and valuable. And the companies who are going to offer humanity to clients, they're going to be the one that distinguish themselves from the other companies, not the one who are going to offer the technology, because the technology is going to be available to anybody. But the human dimension is the one that is more precious. And the smart companies are doing it, by the way. Google, Microsoft, they are all investing tremendously on the human aspect, okay? And they are the most successful companies. Starbucks now is realizing that it lost its edge because it began having so many drive-through that they lost what they really were, which is the third place, the place between work and home, where people created an experience of belonging and socializing. Then they're going back to that, closing the drive-throughs. Then the human is going to be the paramount advantage of companies.
So what's the first step that a manager should take, or a leader should take, to make sure that he or she is moving down this path of leveraging strengths?
We need a strength, positive psychology strength clarification. And by the way, you mentioned this, the StrengthsFinder is a good instrument. But I tell you the difference, because people tell me, well, we've done already strength exercise. But the StrengthsFinder and the Gallup, which is done by Gallup, is about talent.
Okay.
And talent is not our problem. We have a lot of talent. Our problem is character strengths.
Okay.
What makes a person motivated? Okay, one person to be loyal, and people to be happy, optimistic, and resilient at work. That's not a function of talent. That's what we call character strengths, which is what positive psychology works with. Okay.
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 So is there an alternative then to the StrengthsFinder?
Yes, the VIA, the values in action instrument, which is what I use, which is the instrument of positive psychology that gives to each person the 24 character strengths. It's called the values in action instrument. Then it's a different story, because also the values in action instrument, differently from the StrengthsFinder, the values in action is validated by science. Okay, it's a scientific instrument. Okay, created by scientists and validated by scientists. Very precise. 16 million people a year take it. It's the #1 instrument today in the world. Then the first thing you do is you give every person in the team or in the company, depending who we want to work with, the gift of knowing their top 5 character strengths. Okay, 9 times possibility of flourishing by knowing them, 18 times by applying them. And then you have a program of application, how you apply your strengths to the daily work, to the teamwork, and the results are fantastic. The second thing you do is you work on purpose. Because
What do you mean?
what is the purpose of the company and what is the purpose of people working? A person who goes to work in the morning without a sense of purpose will not achieve anything.
So it's making sure that your tasks or your duties are aligned with your purpose and the purpose of the company.
Exactly. Well, you're
okay?
using the most important word, Steve, which is alignment. Okay, then that's something I teach managers, how to find systems of alignment between the task and the strength and purpose of the person. Then purpose is defined as giving the best of yourself for the benefit of others. Giving the best of yourself for the benefit of others. And whoever works needs to feel that they're giving the chance and the system by which giving the best of what they had to give with a sense of what they are doing has a benefit in society. That's the key, by the way, to diminish all the negative impact of the introduction of technology, that the person preserve a purpose, more immune they feel to the threat of technology.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting that you said that the benefit should be to society, not, you didn't say to the company.
The company, the company needs to, I don't care what you do, the company nails, so you do, beds, the company needs to have a clear sense of why they do what they do beyond making money. And by the way, that sense always existed from the foundation of the company, okay?
Sure.
Because whoever created the company solved the problem. Because companies are created to solve a problem, and that solving of the problem was for the benefit of people. Besides making money and making a company and being entrepreneurial, but the idea, the moment of excitement and vision came with this aha moment of I am going to solve a problem. And then today the company has to have the same excitement, and the people working there too, that beyond what they do at their desk, there is a larger purpose that they are serving together for the world. If you can maintain that, you are going to have the most successful, exciting company. But I go to most companies and I ask them, what are your values? And they, in the best case scenario, they send me to the end of the website where nobody goes and scroll down, the very, very, very end, and they have the series of values of the company. And what is amazing, that they are great values. Okay, and many of them very close to the character strengths of positive psychology, but not even people working there for years have scrolled down to that section
Right.
of the website.
Yeah, I think you raise a really good point. I think, many times employees lose sight of the bigger purpose for the company. I mean, some companies are good at putting out, why they do what they do and making the world a better place. But very often the employees who are just in there sort of to grind it out, to get their work done, not serving their own purpose or thinking about the purpose, the greater purpose of the company. But you're absolutely right. The only reason people buy products or services is to make their life better.
I used to teach at the university. I have a degree on philosophy. That was my first passion and still. Then I used to be a professor of philosophy at the university, and the most passionate person and the person with most purpose that I found at the university were not the big professors. You went down the stairs to the old section of the building on a very dark place. Okay.
Okay.
There was Stanley. Stanley was a mailman, okay, who had to deal with a lot of mails. And I never seen somebody so happy and so proud like as Stanley, okay? And I would give Stanley important things like contracts I had for books. And I knew that everything was in very good hands because Stanley understood that being there in the dark room downstairs on the basement, he was in charge of the communications of everybody, and he had a great sense of purpose of the importance of his job. Okay, then I like to go and see Stanley. He will infuse me with motivation more than the top professors at the university. Then everybody at your company should be at Stanley. Doesn't matter where they work, have a sense of purpose. Then after I give people strengths, I work with companies on the purpose. Okay, and that's a powerful combination.
Yeah. I remember reading the story about the groundskeeper at Yankee Stadium who saw his purpose as helping the Yankees to win the World Series. It was a great motivator.
Yes.
Right?
Then doesn't matter where you are, okay, as long as you have a sense of purpose.
That's right. And for many of my colleagues in the high-tech industry, one of the biggest challenges is they retire and then within a year they die because they have no purpose.
Exactly. I gave a lecture. I just come from Argentina, and I gave a lecture to Porta. It's a company which is the largest company on the making of alcohol and all kind of byproducts of alcohol, where basically all the good liquor is made all through Argentina. It's a monster company, and I was giving a lecture and about purpose, and I told them the most fearful feeling somebody gets getting older is becoming irrelevant.
Mm.
Okay, and that's the threat of AI, the feeling of becoming irrelevant. We need to constantly send the message that people are relevant. That's the most important message today. And by the way, all this is coming on a book. I published my book around, I think, March. It's going to be called The Human Upgrade, the new leadership for the AI era. And it's going to be published through John Maxwell Leadership. And it's going to be the application of all these principles of positive psychology to AI transitions at companies with, the theory with cases also from different companies. And it's going to have at the end even sections, like a section with workshops that managers can apply by themselves at the companies. Then I've been, this is what I'm concentrating now, my work on positive psychology as an answer to the challenges of today.
Yeah, well, that's great. Yeah, so many people are just really fearful of what's going to happen with their future because of AI. But I'm obviously very positive about it. My daughter and I teach how to infuse AI into small companies. But the leadership has to get out in front and they have to say, look, what we're doing here is to help people do the next level of work. You get rid of the piddly little stuff that takes up your time but doesn't really fuel your passion.
There's going to be a big transition. It's taking place already with a lot of pain, like any transition. Like you said, how things are done with those who need to go, the assistance we give them, and what plan we have for those who remain are going to be essential for the companies who are going to make it or not.
Yeah. So I understand you have a way for our listeners to find their strengths. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Everybody should have a moment of aha, transformative moment to get their strength, and it's so easy. Then take your phone, go to your text, and text the word positive to 33777. That's all you need to do. To text positive to 33777, and I will send you the 24 strengths of positive psychology. a couple of questions to determine your top strengths, and a few exercises to maximize them to 9 to 18 times, flourishing.
That's great.
As easy as that.
And Alfredo, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
They should not be surprised that they should go to my website, which is positive AB for Alfredo Borodowski altogether, positiveab.com. And there, you will see how in a few months you can get the book, the workshops I give, the keynotes, and just keep in touch.
Great. And that concludes our show. Thanks so much to my guest, Alfredo Borodowski, an expert in positive psychology. I hope you learned something about using positive psychology to overcome the biggest challenges facing you as a business owner. I know I did. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to the Profit Minds podcast. This is your host, Dr. Stephen 𝐏𝐾𝐯. Please visit www.profitminds.net for other episodes or to contact me. Thank you for your positive feedback, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others. Thanks for listening. Have a grateful day.